provide the preliminary result of the census within 1 month completing of the census, because we are using the most sophisticated technologies which will help us to go for the challenging activities to giving the result. And we will expecting from you some feedback, your feedback on the questionnaires. We'll share their questionnaires with you very soon. If it is possible, please provide your feedback by the next 2 ways. We are expecting your technical expert, especially on human resource experts, and your training and quality assurance costs. We are also expecting your support on data processing, dissemination and product development. The dissemination will be not only in hard copies but also the online disseminations. To mobilize your additional funds is very critical for us at this moment, and financial and technical support from for this project, especially in this year. We have a lot of activities in 19 and 2020 before the census, and that will be followed by in 2020 and after 2024. These activities will help us, because there are some areas where we will actually need the capacity building before the census. Otherwise, it will be very challenging for us to address the main census activities. That's all from me. Thank you for your education.
Many thanks to the Deputy Director of BBS for exploring the importance of cooperation for technical and knowledge support for the upcoming 2021 Population and Housing Census. Distinguished audience, now the floor is open for all of you to reply and share experience question. I will request Madam Chair and Co-Chair to facilitate.
Thank you, Baby, and I would also like to thank Mr. Alok Hussain, Deputy Director of BBS, for his detailed presentation. And I'm sure that you have, all of you have the copies of the presentation. And you have heard from the presentation that BBS will provide you with the questionnaire, and we request you to kindly give your feedback within 2 weeks to help BBS to go ahead with other programs in future. So this is the time we can share ideas and experience, and you can ask questions. So floor is open for you, and we would really appreciate if you kindly introduce yourself and ask your questions. I see my colleague from Swedish Embassy.
Thank you for the very brilliant presentation. I just want to ask, these 25 SDG indicators, were there any principle or criteria for how to choose them, what to choose? I mean, I see they are relevant, but there are also several left out. So there is a limited number you can use, but what has to be the guideline in this? Then also the cost for the census in 2011 would be interesting, because this is much bigger, broader census. So we can.
I think BBS will answer, but I know that Swedish Embassy is also helping BBS for some kind of support for the census thing, because I was in charge of Nordic Wing before I joined as a UN Wing Chief, and I know Swedish is supporting, so I will now request BBS to answer the question, please.
Thank you, Madam, for your nice question. Actually, for identifying these 25 indicators, we have gone through the metadata of those particular indicators, and also we have consulted with different stakeholders. And those are the indicators which can be covered, as we are using very short questionnaires in the main census, and the socio-demographic survey will contribute or supplement that one. So if we go for more indicators, the questionnaire will be very long and it will be very challenging for collection of the data. I hope you got the answer.
Please, the representative of UNICEF.
Thank you very much. First of all, I really would like to express my appreciation of this very comprehensive presentation. And also I'd like to express a very fruitful collaboration between ERD, BBS, and also UNICEF. My question is about disability. Talking about leaving no one behind in the principle of SDG, we really believe that it's very important for us to look into this issue of disability instance, particularly, in the census. And I wonder whether the plan is to use Washington Group short form. You're nodding, yes, which is great, because I think the last, I just looking at the last census, 2011, and the disability prevalence rate was 1.4%. And internationally, it's some kind of the latest estimate is just about 15% of population has some form of disability. So, together with BBS, we have been supporting this multiple indicator clusters at the mix, which is a sample-based survey, and that survey will give, the result will be out before the end of this year, but that survey will give prevalence of disability at the population level for child and also for children, as well as adult, or say, age group from 15 to 49, but not the entire population. So that part needs to be looked into by census.
Thank you. You have mentioned.
Excuse me, I think this gentleman, you want to answer something or later? Maybe we can take the questions first. So I would like to request this gentleman.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman, Madam, for giving me the opportunity for the question. So, first of all, thank you very much to the Bangladesh government and the BBS and also the UNFPA arranging the consultation meeting. And I think this is the first consultation meeting with the other stakeholders. So I am representing, my name is Onika Sir. I am representing one of the international organization named Hex Effort, which has long been working for the plainland indigenous community people and also for the untouchable people that call the Dalit people, though it is not recognized in our constitutions. So I am just wondering how the Dalit community people and the plainland indigenous community people and the ethnic minority community people and other community people who will be listed 100% in the census. Because so far we have just discussed with the BBS and we have several meetings with the BBS, and I had opportunity to go through the short questionnaire and the long questionnaire. Maybe there are the rooms for the development of the questionnaires in the short questionnaire and the long questionnaire, but I found that there are the rooms to improve the categories to include the indigenous community and the Dalit community. If you say the short-term, see the short-term questionnaire, there is no space for the Dalit community. There are the others, indicated others, but it does not mean that Dalit community will be included in the others. So how we can include the Dalit community who are the left out, and also the the level of the tea garden, it is not also included there. So since we are just talking about left no one behind and to achieve the SDC goal, how this marginalized community who are never been 100% been this calculated in 2011 census. So we are suffering with the numbers. When they're just submitting any proposal to the donors and the government, they are wanting the exact number. So we are here just facing the problem that exact number of this marginalized group of people. So my request will be, if there is any room to develop the questionnaire, the short-term questionnaire and the long-term questionnaire, because it is also showing the inequality of the some group of people in the Bangladesh. So here there are the many SDC goal has been taken, but I think that one of the important the SDC goal it should be taken, that is the number 10, that is the inequality and the social injustice. So it should be reflected in the census, otherwise we will not get that segregated data. That will definitely not solve the problem, since we are just facing this problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think BBS is taking notes. So please, if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Shamsul Rahman. I am National Economic Advisor to UNDP. I have a couple of comments. But first of all, thank you so much for inviting us and for making an excellent presentation. And we also consider that reliable data in Bangladesh, everywhere, it's one of the most precious resources, especially for informed policy making. Now, I have few comments. You plan to start your census in 2021, and the dissemination is 2024. And lot of things can change within this time gap. Lot of things. A man who was included, he may die, unfortunately. And a lot of things, I mean, a lot of the dynamics that will be lost. So, I mean, the relevance of the study, I mean, the census, it may be undermined due to this huge time gap. Secondly, I mean, this will also affect, especially if you see the timing, because ultimately by census, as you mentioned that you want to help to optimally distribute the resources. Now, our planning cycle, upcoming 5-year plan, preparatory works already, I mean, they have been initiated. And it will end 2025. So maybe the next plan, 9th 5-year plan, you will be able to provide the inputs. But I think that would be, late. And also another important, issue, that is the LDC graduation. So, 224, that will also meet that aspect also. Now, another important thing, that is there any hard and fast rule that after every 10 years, why not after every 5 years?
That's the
I mean,
recommendation.
Yeah, and thirdly, if you see the general economic division SDG data gap mapping, you will be finding that there are around 86 or 96 indicators where currently there are data gaps. Now, if you kindly align your questionnaire and also try to incorporate those missing elements, I think it would have much credence. Now, and adding to the emphasis put by my previous speaker, especially to include the inequality. I can give you one example. In our UNDP, we are currently conducting a multidimensional inequality diagnostic study. Now, while we were dealing with the BPS HIES data, age 2016 data, we see both inclusion and exclusion error. Exclusion in both the ways. Not only the marginalized, also the very rich people, they are excluded from the questionnaire. So, that exclusion error should be minimized. That's our submission. And thank you for giving me the floor.
Thank you. Representative Aiello? Yes, and then we'll pass it back. Thank you. Can we just take one more and then we'll pass it back? Thank you. Again, thanks very much for such a vibrant audience and organizing this. And I think it's the right time to start a 2021 census. I have two questions maybe. Looking at your slide on census data for SDG monitoring, I will focus on Disenburg economic growth indicator, that is SDG 8. I see that 3 of the indicators will be covered under this. So my question is that to what extent both the census and the socioeconomic demographic survey will either complement or entirely eliminate requirement of having different survey, for example, for child labor survey or labor force survey. Because if you see the 2017 gap analysis of SDG data, a lot of the requirement talks about, for example, 8.7.1 says that it will be covered by child labor survey. So just trying to understand if there will be, if you will need another survey after this, if it covers everything, specifically on unemployment and child labor, these kind of indicators. Secondly, I'm echoing my two colleagues who spoke before on the marginalized group. It's not only marginalized because in the next slide, you talked about the long questionnaire which will contain thematic modules including disability, migration. So a little bit clarity might be needed on the migration specifically. I'm sure my colleagues from Ireland will also speak about it. To what extent it will, what's the scope here to identify that? Thank you. I will pass it back to the
Thank you. Thank you for the questions. I will try to address all of them, but I will take support. I hope Dr. Sadhushan sir is here. He will also supplement for these technical issues. First of all, I am starting from what are the from the first question was from the UNICEF about the disability. In the mix we are covering on the Arnold 5, but we will continue to collect the census data for all the individuals, especially using the Washington Group questionnaire or the set of questionnaire. So it will be continued in the next census also. For the darkest community and the marginalized community ethnic groups, you already know the government has recognized 50 specific communities, and there are some consultations still going on. If that list is being changed, then we will include them in the census. We have the scope to include them also, because you already mentioned that there is the others category where, so all the other marginalized community can be introduced, addressed in that others category. And also you have mentioned about the tea garden communities. Yes, there are some marginalized communities in the tea gardens. They are addressed according to their identity. Regarding the goal 18, the inequality, we have not directly improved the indicators here, but there are some indicators which can be addressed through the other technical approaches like smaller estimation and with the other survey and census data. So the door is not closed here. If it is possible to address any indicators which is in SDG 10, then we can address that one according to the metadata. The methodology supports us. Regarding the dissemination, we got that you have mentioned that we will disseminate in 2024. So there is, I would like to clarify that one. The census will conduct in 2021, and the preliminary report will be published within 1 month of that main census. And the community reports and the district reports will be published within a very short time online through our website. But lots of books and reports should be will take more times to complete. That will take more time for that one, and we will go for the further analysis of thematic area and special monographs that will be disseminated in 2024. So last time we have published our detailed data, detailed report of community series by 1 year. So this year we hope it will be less than 1 year in the next census. So data will be available through online, not in hard copy, but it will take time to print. Another issues we have been asked that regarding the SDGs inclusion in the SDGs data gap. We have already checked with the data gap analysis and also the MNE framework published by GED. We have the close contact with GED and working with together, and we have identified what are the indicators have been identified from the population census. We are providing more than they have expected actually. So their door is open still. If we get more indicators which can be addressed in the census, we will do that. And regarding the questions from the ILO, the child labor and other labor force indicators, these will be addressed actually in the socio-demographic survey, which will be conducted followed by the main census. So that will give only the indicators level, not in details, but for the details about the child labor, of course we have to conduct the labor force survey and child labor survey in the consecutive years, so that we can give more detailed data for the policy planning. Regarding the issues of migration, in the last censuses we have considered all the national and international migration and even the internally displaced population. So in the next census, I hope if you are meaning the international communities who have been migrated to Bangladesh, so it is under discussion because we are counting the foreign nationals also. So we hope we will cover that proportion also under as the national and the foreign nationals. And if there are some other issues which is very technical, I hope Dr. Sadoz sir is here. He will supplement with me.
Would you like to supplement something?
Yeah.
Very briefly?
Yeah, because one of the issue, I think Alamir has covered everything. One of the issue is already mentioned by even if the representative. He was mentioning about why not 5 years. Actually, census practices is usually 10 years because of its size and because of its cost involvement. And actually, census question followed by the long questionnaire survey actually enhance the coverage. Census question in every country are usually very short, and inclusion of the questions are very limited. So in that case, we should think about that 5 year could be an option, but we are not ready for that. And one more point about the inclusion and exclusion error in the census data. Actually, all census are prone to some of the error. That's why these kind of meetings and consultations are done before the census. And we had meetings before the 2011 census as well. I was also involved there. So few of the issues might have been missed out. So this time we will be looking into these issues very carefully so that nobody's left behind. Because slogan this year is. And one more issue, Alamir already given an explanation regarding the why 2024. Actually, you have already mentioned this, that LDC graduation from LDC is an issue. That's why we have planned it that 2024 we will finish off all the activities of census. Otherwise, census activities usually goes for 4 or 5 days, some cases. The primary results, the census results will be published because this time we are planning it to be highly technically sound methodology so that we can disseminate it quick as 1 month. And the area-based reports will be in 6 months probably. But they are the thematic reports, thematic monographs, secondary research, small area estimation. Lots of statistical activities are required to be done after the long questionnaire survey is being done. So linking them and doing statistical research. Academia will be involved in these things, and that will take a little bit of time. That's why the 2024 is shown as the end line for the next activities.
We can take a few more questions. The gentleman from World Bank was waiting, I think. Gentleman from World Bank, would you like to ask questions?
Yes, thank you so much for inviting us here today. I'm Wamik from the World Bank once again. So I have a relatively non-thematic question. You alluded to this, and Alan alluded to this to some extent. Well, one of the big issues of census is the non-response rate. And this is particularly acute in urban areas where you have big buildings with a bunch of people crammed in, and you're not allowed in. So you mentioned one mitigation strategy of leaving questionnaires at the door. So I was wondering if there are any other suggestions that you have to mitigate this, because this will often lead to an underestimation of typically marginalized groups such as the disabled, you mentioned, or home workers and some of the left ones and the left eye. So how would you account for this to some extent?
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you also for that great presentation. It's really good to have this detailed level of discussion at this stage. I'm perhaps going back to an issue that you were being delicate about, but in terms of counting foreigners, what you talked about still being under discussion, are we talking about the Rohingya population? And if so, what's the nature of the discussion going on, to the extent to which you can share it? And clearly a census can be a frightening prospect for many people, depending on the levels of vulnerability or how they think the data is going to be used. do you have a strategy in place within the sub-$1 million awareness raising campaign to think about the different populations that may also try to avoid being captured in the census if they fear what might be done with it? And just a quick additional question, I'm wondering what the government's worried about, because obviously you're trying to reassure us that you're on top of things, but are there things that at the moment you are particularly concerned about in that time left? Thank you.
I think I saw Iona.
Thank you, Chief Co-Chair. Good afternoon, colleagues. It's a pleasure for us to be here and listen to the vibrant discussion taking place. I'd just like to express my expectation for the upcoming census. The 2011 census report was a very pleasant surprise for us, I would say, because that census, under the socio-economic section, it contains 7 migration tables, exploring the dynamics of internal migration, international migration, and even highlighting some data on returning migrants as well. And after that, 2 specific population monographs were also published, one focusing on international migration and the other focusing on internal migration. We'd very much like to see those things featured in the upcoming census. On the issue of foreigners in Bangladesh, I think that is one of the most data lacking area in Bangladesh, because for effective migration management, we need to know how many people is going abroad, also how many people is coming for different purposes. It's not for analyzing through a security lens, but just for ensuring that migration is effectively managed and governed for the benefit of all. And I would very much like to see a population monograph published specifically focusing on that in the upcoming census. On the SDG indicators, we have 232 indicators to track progress against SDG, and we understand that a census might not reflect answers to all those 232 indicators, but we would like to echo our other colleagues that we can try to get as much data as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. UNESCO. Thank you. It was a good, nice presentation. Could you please go to the previous slide where SDG 4 is mentioned, because the presentation we received will indicate the SDG 4 here, and I'm pleased to see SDG 4 is added here, and particularly for 2, the very critical indicator is captured for data monitoring. My question would be that that similar to ILO, the other surveys or data collection processes, whether how we were doing this through census and capturing the data. The participation in education and training, somehow linking with SDG 8, that is if you go for 861. So the questionnaire, how it is developed, we would love to see. Another point would be that in the disaggregation level, because up to district level disaggregation we did for these big data or data analytics thing that SDG tracker is doing, that this census will go for up to reach at institute level disaggregation. So the more the disaggregation below words from district level will go is better for the users who use the census data. And this is not for the question, but from UNESCO's side, particularly for the institute report, that as we have EYS on board in Bangladesh, currently UNESCO is supporting ministry certification for doing the data part on SDG 4, so we would be very happy to get the questionnaires to share with EYS to get their suggestions and help EYS to finalizing those or fine-tuning those, as well as we'd be happy to see the opportunities
for technical assistance and capacity development of BPS team who will focus on the education component. Quickly, one point came in mind that our World Bank colleague mentioned about the door-to-door questionnaire taking. The difficulties sometimes we see when I become a respondent to the questionnaire that the chief collector who went with the questions, the training that you were providing to them may not be that much good standard, because the way they ask the questions and give the clarification doesn't always explain everything and fulfill the respondent's need. So here maybe BBS need to pay attention. For time being, thank you.
Apologies to come back again. Just forgot one small point. The previous census, it allowed to access the raw data for interested and curious individuals through the pre-datum platform. So anybody who has the capacity to play with the data can access the data, generate his own statistical tables and cross-tabulations. That is, I think, one very important thing wishing to be featured in the upcoming census. If this data is posted into that pre-datum platform and we can access it and play with it, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't see any more hands up. Are there?
Can we give the floor to our Joint Secretary when we need to join in one meeting, Mr.
Actually, it's not my perceptual comment, rather working experience. I just finished my 3-year tenure working as the Deputy Commissioner in Narangos, and while this sort of census goes on, implementation stage, the most important challenge is to train up the data collectors. Most significant, the mindset of the data collectors. Countries like Bangladesh, the people, and also the countries like Vietnam, Myanmar, Bangkok, where you also work, you have the experiences, I've gone through your profile, that in these countries, the mindset of our people is not so sensitized to answer to the repeated questions of the household's heads. What she was mentioning about the collecting the information is most important. And thus, I think, while we will provide the training programs to the data collectors and the concerned officials to bring a positive, assertive mindset for collecting the data, and most significantly about the challenge babies and the community people. These two sectors, I personally have the sympathetic consideration for collecting the information. This is my perception out of my experience of working in this sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I saw the hand of the World Bank colleague up, and I think we will close with that and hand it over to Yes.
Sorry, I'm going to be very fast. Will you be, once you're done, will you be sharing the sampling frame if requested?
On this census.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to respond one